Good evening. My name is Jay Rothman. I am the host of the show. Welcome to Real Men, Real Talk, Live. Again, I'm the host of the show. My name is Jay, and I am just so excited to have on a top shelf this evening a special guest, another one coming in from Arizona. Welcome to Real Men, Real Talk, Layne.
Hey, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I got to tell you, I love the music, the introductory music, especially seeing everybody. But Kaimalu, every time I see it, I just get a big grin when I see that flower up in your ear. I love it.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show this evening, Layne. As a special guest, we're going to be jumping into the topic in just a moment. However, I do want to also welcome back to episode 188, Chris coming in from Arizona, and we also have Kamalu back in Sedona, Arizona. Welcome back to Real Men Real Talk Live, gentlemen. This evening, as we wait for some of our viewers to jump in this evening, our episode is 188, and our topic is going to be all about honoring your fierce dream. Before we dive into what that even means for any one of us four here, um, I want to invite our viewers, if you should hear something you like or love, feel free to drop it into the comment section. If you have any questions that come forward from anything that you hear or that you hear us say or that we haven't even said, please drop them into the comment section. And most importantly, if you are inspired by what you hear tonight, if you if you feel like you just want to share it with friends and family, we invite you to do just that. Share the show out, and perhaps maybe someone in your life will hear something they need to hear tonight so that they can honor becoming their own fierce, living their own fierce dream. And with that, in our production meeting just a couple of 24 hours ago or less, we invited Layne as a special guest to share with us a topic that's dear to his heart, dear to his mind. But before we go there and ask you to kick us off, light us up, and get us hot in this episode tonight, I do want to say that Layne is known as the ultimate adventure coach. And so, welcome to Real Men Real Talk Live this evening, and Layne, and just welcome to what we do. We show up as men, and we show up speaking our truth, and part of our journey. And so, I want to invite you before we get into tonight's show topic. What happened in your life that changed the trajectory of life, where you were able to embrace your own fierce dream in your life?
Jay, I love the question. And let me take you back to a time when I was pursuing my PhD. There was one time I came home and told my wife, I feel so disconnected. I feel disconnected from you. I don't know who you are. I don't know who God is. I don't know who I am anymore. Like, I need to get away. I need a week, at least a week, to get out of here and find myself, rediscover myself. And we were poor as church mice. I had a bunch of kids, and I was going to school, and like, you don't get paid anything when you're a grad student. And so Gayleen, my wife, she said, well, if you need to, go ahead and take a day, go stay at a hotel if you need. And I thought, no, like, it's not one day overnight's not going to do it. And I didn't realize it at the time, but that experience was what kicked off a series of events that led to me now taking people all over the world on these bicycle adventures that allow us to detach from our world and reawaken who we truly are.
Beautiful, beautiful. I want to ask you, based on that, what does honoring your fierce dream mean to you today?
I love it. You know, let me make a distinction about what I mean by fierce dream. It's kind of a provocative word, which is intentional, you know, to get us to think about what among all of our dreams, what is the fierce dream? And so when I talk about fierce dreams, for me, it means the dream that grabs hold of you and shakes you awake and just will not let go of you because it's part of your life purpose. So that, and honoring that means to, the analogy that I love is that when we're kids, we're dreamers. We dream in bright colors, and we embody dreams by just flitting around and dancing on the couch. But then over time, as people say, no, don't do that. Oh, shh, no, be quiet. The dream that we have that is so vibrant when we're born, it slowly shrinks, and then it crawls into a chest inside our heart, and we lock it and we barricade it with layers and layers of protection so it doesn't get hurt. And the honoring the fierce dream is removing the barriers, opening up the lock, and allowing it full expression.
I think what we're going to do tonight, my intention is for us to unlock the shackles of that, the bondage of how can we even as beings having this human experience, how can we even uncover and discover what our dreams are? What is it that we think? Because I could tell you, gentlemen, that for many, our dreams turn into nightmares.
Mm.
Because they're the
Say
essence
more.
of it is,
What do you mean by a nightmare? And would you mind, Jay, saying, like, what is the distinction between a nightmare and maybe just something frightening?
wow. Huh. We're not even 7 minutes into the show. And here we are. I think what it really comes down to is that something that you alluded to in the opening, Layne, is that when we're creating a life for ourselves that has a lot of belief systems that comes from our relatives, perhaps our mom, our dad. Yeah. Kamalu.
Jay.
How do we decipher the difference between a nightmare?
Between a nightmare and something that's frightening.
Can you speak up a little louder? We're not hearing you.
Between a nightmare and something that's frightening. I think. I view something that's frightening as maybe. I think something that's frightening becomes a nightmare when it becomes all-consuming.
When it becomes,
All-consuming.
Ah.
So when that fright becomes our operating system, then it's our nightmare.
Wow. That packs a punch.
Thank you.
How about you, Chris? Have you ever experienced the dream that you think you've been chasing, and all of a sudden it's turned into more of a painful nightmare, one that creates a different relationship with the emotions?
Yeah, I like the distinction. For me, initially what it came through was, something frightening, maybe an external thing, right? We come around the corner and something terrible has happened, right? That might be something that's frightening. And when Kamalo said a nightmare becomes part of your operating system, like that's from internal, right? That's something that we've created inside of ourselves that sits there and creates that disease, creates that disdain, that for me, that rot that sat there and allowed me to then then turn around and seek things outside of myself. You know, be it drugs, be it women, be it whatever it is. You know, that's what sat there and created that. You know, so if it was, you know, the career, right? If it was, you know, being the pinnacle of what was supposed to be my Boeing career and realizing like this is terrible. All right, so that became a nightmare, you know. But yeah, so for me, it's, you know, the distinction between internally made and externally come across. But I haven't put much thought into it, so it's a new construct.
You know, do you mind if I interject something? There was Jay, to really go back to your earlier question. After I did my first major adventure, going coast to coast, lived a dream that I didn't realize I had. There was a guy, Mark Goldman, fantastic human being. He was guiding us into our stories to help us really unpack and uncover what was buried beneath. And this guy, he used drama therapy. And I'll never forget, we were in Sandy Oglesby's house, and he was guiding us, and he said, "Layne, can you like show us what it was like?" And I remember picking up a chair, and along with it, something kind of like a shield. And I said, "Man, it's just like I kept pounding and pounding and pounding, like what I want's on the other side of this. And if I could just pound hard enough, I could bust through this brick wall and I would be there finally." And he helped me realize that, you know, as I was doing that, he asked, "So what did you actually do to finally find your dream?" And I was shocked. All I did was put the chair down, the shield down, turned the opposite direction, and went the other way. And Jay, it sounds like from our earlier conversations, that something like that happened to you. Like you were trying to smash through something and you just turned and went a different way.
Well, what happens for some of us, especially as men, is we create some type of dream. Women as well. But I'm speaking from my heart. I had a dream of how we all have a dream of a vision of what we think we want in our life. And then when we chase it, when we set goals for it, we set sometimes definable goals, metrics. We measure, especially in business. And the more we achieve those metrics, the higher we raise the bar for continued achievement. And I did that. I chased that, having, you know, the family, the whole thing, the wife, the kids, the house, the cards with the labels on them, the logos on them, the high-powered suits, all of it. And at some point, I woke up. And what I woke up to was that my best thinking had nearly killed me. My best dreaming was no longer serving me in any aspect of my life, as a husband, as a father, as a son, as a sibling, and most importantly, as an intimate connection with my own self. I'd lost myself in every aspect of my life. And so for me, when I was referring to the nightmare, and the reason I paused and I passed it to Kamalu a few moments ago is because sometimes the energy that's coming through me causes a little bit of nausea, and I got hit pretty hard with it a few moments ago. That's why I passed. That's why I'm coming back to it. But that's me speaking my truth. But what it really comes down to is that when I woke up in Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Beverly Hills in 2015, I literally woke up. And as I laid there, I really just assessed every aspect of my life. Every aspect. And it had turned into that nightmare. And it was the first time that I was willing to be brutally honest with myself. Because up until that moment, Chris, I was running, I was gunning, I was avoiding, I was minimizing, I was denying. And what was at the root of all of that is one word, one syllable, begins with the letter F. Fear. Fear had captured me. And here's a man that on stage or in the presence of a board of directors or in front of the customers, I never intentionally set into that space or that environment consciously in fear. They just didn't know. I was really good at creating a mirage, creating false narratives. But inside, I wasn't at peace anymore. The truth is I probably never was at peace. The time I was that boy in the playground, getting my butt kicked by the bullies. So, Chris, I see your mind going, man. What are you thinking? What are you feeling right now? Is any of this relatable to you?
Oh yeah, you like just definitely the corporate path and what's really going for me is just this honoring your fear strain. And I'm just contemplating like what was there ever a fear stream? And like I've shared, like at one point in time I wanted to be an airline pilot, and that got kind of pulled from me because I have asthma and couldn't go under the RMRTL. But I feel like I had an opportunity to be a pilot if I wanted to be. I worked for Scaled Composites. There was 15 pilots, trainers that worked around me. They had planes literally stacked up around me. I could have learned how to fly for free. And I didn't take that opportunity. So I was just like, I wonder if that was ever really a dream or just something that somebody said to me that I like, oh, that sounds cool. That'll make a lot of money. But when the opportunity actually arose, like I didn't take it. So was it fear because of it had been taken away from me at one point in time, or was it just really never a dream of mine? And so therefore, like that's the earliest dream I can remember. Kind of just puts me in this conundrum of like, well, what the hell was, what was that earliest real dream that was ever sitting there? I can very clearly now state what my purpose is, right? I've got two things that I am constantly working on. Working with men so that they can undo all of the doing and get returned to who they're being, and working with kids so that they never lose sight of their divinity. I know that. I live that as much as I possibly can outside of, the stuff that pays my bills every moment out, and even then a lot of times, I'm still having those conversations inside of my work. So, yeah, I just like, I was sitting there contemplating, trying to figure out like, well, what was that earliest? Is there like a core dream, as Layne's, kind of reference, like, was there a core dream that I've locked away and I don't even know? I don't even know that it was locked away, and I can't remember what it was. And so it's kind of scary. It's really kind of scary to me. Like, is there a little piece of me somewhere locked away so deep I don't even know it?
Say that again, Chris. I need to hear it a second time, please.
Is there a little piece of me locked away so deep that I don't even know it? That's scary to me because I don't know. What was that core dream? Was there one?
Layne, what do you make of what Chris just shared, man?
Well, what I think the first thing that springs to mind, Jay, is that the chemicals in the brain, the neurochemistry, is exactly the same for anxiety and excitement. Exactly the same. The only difference is the view we give it. So what immediately jumps to mind is, rather than anxiety about, is there something locked away? Wow. What about the excitement that maybe there's something locked away that has yet to be discovered and unveiled? And wow, look at what it's going to have, what's going to happen for you.
There you go. So what I'm hearing you say, Layne, it's all about changing our perspective with our own mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of what happens for us in general is we're speaking the language that was spoken to us by our ancestors, perhaps by a mother or a father or caretakers. And to your point, when I started back in 2015, I had no idea where it was going to lead me to. But what I did believe was this: I had infinite possibilities to discover the true essence of who I was born to be, not who I had become.
Mm.
And that's what this journey is all about, Chris Morrison. It's about tapping into the unknown, the parts of yourself that's been in remission, that's been hiding, that's been crying to be let out of that box.
Mm.
And when you find that key and you unlock that box, wow. Wow. I'm going to say that one more time. Wow. And the beautiful
Wait, would
thing
you
is,
say it again? One more time. That was awesome.
wow. But here's the thing, Layne. I know you have learned in this journey of your life, there's multiple boxes and there's multiple sizes to the box. Every time you think you may have arrived, nope. Nope. It's just a stepping stone. It's just a stepping stone to learn something more about the true essence of who you were born to be, not who you have become. So this can be. What do you make of that, Kamalu? Curious. What are you hearing?
Oh, wow. Well, firstly, I just really want to acknowledge Chris and what he shared there. It's like the level and depth at which that resonated for me. I was just, as you guys know, I was just in Asheville pursuing music, which I really, like, my whole life, that's been like the thing, is music. And I got out there and then like I was questioning myself the whole time about, is this really what I want to be doing? Am I good enough at this to do it? And like questioning if it was actually my internal guidance system saying, no, this is really exactly what you want to do, or at least not in the way that you hear it. Or if that was just fear and anxiety getting in the way and telling me that I couldn't do it. Like my ego sabotaging me, like, here's the opportunity to do it. And then some kind of belief system coming in and saying, no. However, that was the mentality switch that I did my best throughout the whole time there to really keep in mind, is like, the excitement of music is what brought me here, and all of these challenges and things that I'm sitting with within myself, this like chaotic thinking and internal dialogue, that is part of the excitement, because although incredibly challenging, my time there, and there was a lot of self-questioning and self-doubt, there was also a lot of self-discovery in that, because in asking those questions, I was encountering parts of myself that I'd turned away from. Like my first time in Sedona, there was a lot of work with my inner child from ages like 5 to 10. I got really in tune with that. And while I was in Asheville, everything that was coming up for me was triggering my high school self, my like pubescent self, and all these beliefs I picked up about fear and doubt and fitting in, and it wasn't the easiest thing to sit with in the moment. But there was a lot to be learned from that experience, and I'm very, very, very grateful I did. And even the painful parts, I'm learning. The painful parts of myself are still exciting to find.
Sometimes the greatest opportunity is to pause, so that we can allow ourselves to receive what we just heard here. Because the mind always wants to come back with a quick answer.
Mhm.
And it's okay for us just to pause sometimes, just so that we can receive what was just shared and honor what was just shared. The unspoken words sometimes are more powerful than the spoken words. I'm looking in your eyes right now, Kamalu, and I'm traveling. I'm touching you, your heart. I see you. And you are such a beautiful man. And you are doing amazing, representing your generation in the early 20s. The way you show up, I'd say with dignity and grace on most days that I have witnessed to see you in Sedona now. So I want to encourage you and invite you that no matter what, you continue to show up for that little boy within you. The same for you, Layne. Believe that. And the same with you, Chris. We all have that boy within us, that younger self that either wasn't heard, didn't feel safe to be heard, or it didn't matter, didn't feel good enough. And that's part of this journey, this work of honoring your fierce dreams, is busting through all of the old spoken and unspoken words that came through from school, from the playground, from pastors, from preachers, from mom, from dad, from grandparents. Layne, what are you making of any of this?
Well,
What'd you hear?
my memory, it flies back to childhood. As you talk about childhood, and Kemalu, as you talk about the fears of, like, do I measure up? Am I good enough? Is this really what I want? Is it really my inner guidance system? I love that phrase. Is it my inner guidance system? The memory, Jay, that it flies back to is how my parents had this delightful library. down in the basement. And that's where I made my home. Down in that basement, I would take this library of books, and they were beautifully color coded from light blue all the way to deep green and then deep blue. And so I didn't realize it at the time, but they were for different age categories. And I would take it out and read through some of the nursery rhymes and some of the stories, but the ones that absolutely caught me and were fascinating had a common motif, and that was the boy left home to seek his fortune. So we went on, and all he had was a knapsack with scrap of bread and an apple or two, and he headed out into the world. And that was just enchanting to see who he'd meet along the way. What guides and signs would appear, what magical beings would mysteriously appear, and what dark forests they would have to traverse. I mean, it's just, I think there's magic and wisdom in those old folk tales. And I know for me, that's where the dream, I don't know if it was born. I don't know if that was revealed, if it was hinted at, if it was whispered. All I know is that from those stories came a desire to experience that. Like how I wanted to go to India and Japan and South America and Africa and live those stories. But there were two things that blocked it, and I didn't realize it at the time. But one of them was this pernicious voice, kind of like yours, Kamalu. Mine said, "Layne, you're from Idaho. Nobody from Idaho makes it big."
Wow.
So, and that manifested itself in many ways, going forward. But the other thing is that I realized I started living a pseudo dream, which is the dream, but it's not the actual dream. It's a substitute so that we can placate ourselves that I'm living the dream.
Ooh. Tell me more.
Well, I wanted to be a storyteller. I wanted to take those stories, go to libraries, schools, and festivals and perform them. And so I was always conflicted because I had my full-time job as a professor at ASU, Arizona State University, but I was always pursuing this side gig. Soon as I left ASU, the desire to storytell plummeted. Like I had no desire to do it anymore. Instead, I wanted, instead of telling those stories, I wanted to live them.
Wow.
Yes.
Love it. Love it. Hey, we do have one comment here. Nancy Clarkson coming in from Arizona. She says, "Hey, be careful here." Now I'm going to paraphrase what I'm interpreting. She's saying, "Layne, be real careful here. I was born in Idaho, and I'm pretty wonderful. And I'll tell you what, she is more than wonderful. She's just an absolutely beautiful soul sister of mine. And I do want to wish her the best as she does some health work tomorrow on her physical well-being. But Nancy, thank you for popping in and joining us this evening. And so, what do you make of that? She feels she's defending her relationship with Idaho, or is she?
What do you think, Kamalu?
He's passing the volley. I love it.
In the volley today. I think we're all pretty wonderful, man. It's just a place, and it says nothing about who we really are. Jay said before too, we're spiritual beings having a human experience, and the place in which we incarnate maybe affects this human character and the person we play, but doesn't really speak to the depths of who we truly are. I think we're all Wonderful.
You know what's interesting about that, Kamalu, is depending on where in the world you were born, there's a lot of pride in. At least I'm going to speak for the U.S. I'm not going to speak for other countries, although I've traveled to other countries in my career. But at least in the U.S., where I was born and raised, there is a lot of pride in that, and it wasn't. When I say I don't believe it was a healthy pride, I think it was a false pride. And the state almost as though people would wear it as a badge of honor. And of course, Frank Sinatra kind of created that aura around the state where I was born, called New York. But it gives a false sense of well-being. It really, in my humble opinion, of having spent 20 something years in that New York metro area, it didn't serve me. It created an illusion that wasn't true. Where we are from does not define who we are unless we allow it to.
Mm.
How do we define who we are so we could even know what our dream is? Chris, I'm curious to hear you respond to that because hey, you've shifted. You're in a pivot right now, a pretty significant one in your life. And I wonder for you, I mean, you're just in the middle of publishing your first book. Who would ever thought that was something that would be a dream of yours? And here you are about, and I say publish, it's in flow, it's happening. Pre-orders are happening right now for your book. I believe it's called Being Kids.
It's today I choose to be me.
Today I choose to be me. Okay. What did you have to work through to honor your fierce dream around becoming a book publisher, sharing a book for children and about children?
Jay, that's a wild one for me, because that was just a download, man. That was driving back from Sedona the day that you and I just missed each other. Right, came up there with the kids to do a couple things, and driving back, man, it was just like, bam, this is the book. You have to write it. There was no, it just took over me. It was like, it was one of those things, like if I didn't get that out, it probably would have killed me. Like just, there was that much energy inside of me that there was nothing else that I could, it would have literally driven me crazy if I didn't get into instant and action on that and just let that flow through me. So I had never had any aspirations, dreams, thoughts of that. It really just comes through. I just want to be the very best.
I want to interrupt, Chris, and ask a question. Did you never? You said you never dreamt or imagined being an author?
Not once. Like I had I used to read like Dungeons and Dragons like books and stuff like that, fantasy books, and I had like a little character that I built in my head, but that was about it. It's just like some little demon dude that liked to smoke cigarettes because it reminded him of home. That's as far as that character like had been developed. And that's as much as I'd ever, like, there's no narrative what he was doing. He just liked to smoke cigarettes because it reminded him of home. That's as far, right? But when I say I had zero inkling or like desire, zero until whatever time that was, February, March, and I just had to get it done. And so,
what lit your fire? What was it? What was that? What was the spark for you that had you believing that I need to embrace and do this project? Go deep.
The new concept for me of being like creating my document. My document for me is where I create from. It's who I declare myself to be. And I wanted to be able to share that with my boys. I didn't have words for it. I didn't have I didn't have a good method for it. And so I did a lot of seeking, asking people, and two things came up. One, it wasn't anything that was coming close to what I was looking for. And the other thing that kept on coming up is, who are you being to be the best dad that you can be? Because that's where it's going to come from. It's going to come from my inner self and how I show up for my boys. And yeah, I don't know, man. That one's a wild one. I was true just working in connection with the divinity, with the divine, with source, and having some really, really beautiful people, Vicky, Steve, Amy, show up in my life, Eric, and be like, man, you got this. Do this. This is awesome. Do this. And yeah, I'm glad I got it through, because I know a lot of people that would have previous 2023 Chris would have spent 6 months researching and never gotten to action. It would have become another one of those things that sat inside of me and festered and hurt, and another truth unspoken.
Let me ask you this, Chris. How do you feel right now, knowing that you are now an author? Can you put it into words?
No, because it's just the wildest. Like, when I got the paper from the copyright office, I was like, this is wild. Like, that was never on the path. That was never, it was never just, and here it is. And it's, it's truly my gift to my kids. That's really what it comes down to. This is my gift to my kids. And
Chris, we often say in the work I do, the detour is the path. So interesting you say that this wasn't the path. Well, yeah, it was. Everything prepared you to create that so that people all over the world are going to benefit from it.
Thank you.
I want to invite you also to receive this, Chris. You said to me, you did this for your two sons. But I don't think that's 100% accurate. I think you also did that for that boy within you.
Oh my gosh. Oh, wow. That was a lightning flash of insight.
Receive that, Chris Morrison, because I'm feeling it, man. That boy was never good enough to do the path that you have chosen, the path that you had the courage to step into. I know what it takes. I've been on that path. It's simple, not easy. Because every time we hit an obstacle, the ego shows up and says, screw it, quit. Get busy doing something else. But you didn't listen to your ego mind. You listened to your heart, man. So I just want to invite you to honor your fear stream first for yourself, but that boy within you, little Chris, LC, and then expand it out to your children and to all the other children that are touched physically by that book that will be in their hands or being read by one of their caretakers that hopefully they feel safe with to read it to them. But I tell you what, I am so freaking proud of you, man. It takes so much to do what you have embarked on. Kamalo, are you getting what I'm putting down?
Yeah, I'm getting what you're putting down, man. It's bringing up a lot for me, just like listening and receiving this interaction right now, because I felt like that's, I don't know, part of me feels like I failed when I was in Asheville. Part of me feels like I failed.
Why?
I was here, I was like pursuing my dream, and I found myself in a position where I couldn't pay for food, and I was in this like survival mode space and just really not enjoying my life in that moment. And I felt like I've heard all these stories about, and like I've read The Alchemist many times, and that's been like the foundation of choices for this year. It's like, okay, I'm going to continually step into the unknown. When I first got to Sedona, I felt like I was supported in that, like the universe was supporting me in that. And then when I was in Asheville, I felt like everything was falling apart. That I must have been doing something wrong. And then it got to a point where like I didn't feel supported there, or like held in the way that I really felt I needed to. And so been completely unavailable. The offer was for me to go out there and do music for a month, a little bit more, and then leave. And I ended up leaving like a week or two earlier than what was initially offered, because I didn't feel good about where I was. I didn't like being in that survival mode, in that fear space, even though I was doing my best to like just trust. Like, I don't know where the money's going to come from, just trust. And then the money didn't show up, and I didn't know how to really deal with that. And so in a way, like I felt really excited to come back to Sedona. It does feel really good to be here. And part of it did feel a little bit like tucking my tail between my legs and running back to something I kind of knew, because I'd been here before and I had people here. And now I'm, stepping into work that I know will result in money. And I do feel excited about the things that I'm doing, but kind of like you had mentioned earlier, Layne, there's like some kind of like pseudo level excitement around it, where it doesn't really feel like the passion project that really nourishes my heart, but just like I need to do so I can like put food on the table. And I haven't quite figured out how to consolidate that.
Man, first of all, that was gutsy. Like that was raw, real, gutsy, straight from the heart to admit, to be vulnerable like that. I want to honor that big time for you stepping out and saying, hey, I'm not putting up the shield and the armor. Here I am. I'm here naked and afraid, and I'm bearing it all. That was awesome.
Thank you.
The follow-up with that is, what did Santiago do when that happened to him?
I go back to the moment where he's standing in the marketplace, and he just has all of his things stolen. He's in this foreign country. He's like, I have everything I need to like make the dream happen. But then he takes this like year-long detour and works at the glass shop. And the time that he spent working at the glass shop, like you mentioned earlier, the detour is the path. And that's what I'm also receiving in this conversation. is like there's it doesn't it doesn't all have to happen right now in order for me to know that I'm doing it right. It's like one step at a time. And a friend of mine
Doesn't
in
mean you abandon the dream. Does it mean you shelve it and say, well, I guess it didn't work out, I'm done?
I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. No. Yeah, and I think like, you know, I have this vision in my mind and my heart of like being on stage in front of crowds of people playing my music and like seeing the effect that that has on people at like a heart level. And I know that whenever that moment comes, it's going to be so much sweeter because of the process I'm going through now in order to get there.
There you go. There you go.
Woof.
Here's one thing I want to interject, Kamalu,
Yeah.
is that you never have to be alone on this journey.
Mhm.
Meaning, when you invite a power greater than yourself, a higher power, God, source, the universe, whatever title you want to put on it, and you allow him into this intimate relationship with you as you navigate and find your own fierce dream and dreams, trusting that every little detour, every little pause is just that. It no longer has to define any part of who you are today. Each time we are presented with some discomfort in life, some discomfort in the environment, some discomfort with financials, whatever it might be, it's only there to be a window, the window to the soul, the window to your own soul. And when you give yourself permission to allow a power greater than yourself into your life and truly tap into one word called trust, the alternative is fear. If I hadn't, for the first time in my adult life, invited Source into my journey, I don't think I'd be alive today. Because I did everything in my life to control all my outcomes. That's what turned into that nightmare as a 54-year-old man. But today I'm free of that because I live in trust and faith, knowing that each speed bump that I may hit, each moment of despair, sorrow, sadness, frustration, lack of patience is there to strengthen me, deepen my relationship with my own heart or soul, and just trusting. Last week's show was all about meeting the humbled warrior. The day before, I met that humbled warrior one more time, and I talked about that in the last show. I met him one more time when I overcame something that years earlier would never have been able to step into. In that moment, I honored my fierce dream, which was climbing to the summit in a very challenging technical trail, less than 100 feet from the ceiling of the canyon wall. No, I didn't measure it. I'm guesstimating, but I like that number. But in those moments when you step into and you honor the process and just trust that you're right where you're supposed to be, not maybe where you think you want to be, you'll have more room for expansion. Does that make sense, Chris? Any of that? Are you getting what I'm putting down?
Yeah, man. There's two things that kind of came through the last, what Kamala was sharing. Just like for me, one of the biggest learning things this year is now that I have connected to source, joy, the energy with which I create and flow from. Even in those creations, my vision's way bigger than I am. I can't hold on to this myself. This is not something that I'm going to do by myself. And the hardest thing that I've learned to do this year is ask for help. Is to put it out there raw and be like, I can't do this alone. And even though and that is where God shows up for me, is when I put it out there, like, hey, I need to be in England because something's starting there. I'm going to start something there that is going to change the world. I'm getting a group of young people together there that is going to fundamentally change how young people interact with themselves and with their community. But I couldn't do that myself. There was no money for me to do that at that point in time. In the book, right? Getting that out beyond just writing it is something that is far, far bigger than I am. And so I'm constantly asking for help on that, wherever I can. And it's been the absolute hardest thing for me to do. As a man, asking for help is not something that is smiled upon. And as a person who didn't have a father who ever showed up, and then as somebody who was let down a lot by, yeah, we'll do that. That sounds great. We're going to do all these things. And then it never being followed through with. There was always a reason. There was always an out. And so I learned to just do it myself. So yeah, I just, I love that, man. I love, like Layne said, absolutely. The realness, I knew that there was a story because you hadn't shared the story. And so thank you for showing up for us, man, and truly showing up for us. And know that we hold space in our hearts. And for you, you are not alone. I'm sorry that you felt that way. I'm really, devastated that you felt that way out there. But from here on out, man, we got you. We got you. You are never to be alone. I love you, man. I got you.
Kamala, we're not hearing you. Are you speaking? Or you just?
I just said thank you.
Are you receiving right now? Is your heart open to receive?
Yeah.
I want to invite you just to take a nice, loving breath in this moment. You able to receive what Chris just shared with you? How do you feel, Kamala? Do you know?
Like encountering this edge where tears were there when I was listening to Chris speak, and then I was like, no. but they were there. That yeah. I think that's what that that experience served to teach me, was how to ask for help too. And I'm still learning from it. I have this thing where I find people will help a little bit, and then I'm afraid to ask for more, because it's that whole like give an inch, take a mile sort of thing. So yeah, to actually ask for the support that I need, it like challenges this belief around being humble, not asking for too much. So yeah, I
feel that.
Yeah, I really appreciate the openness and the offering and the permission there. Yeah, but that touched something really deep in me.
Beautiful. There's growth right there, my friend.
Got some integrating to do.
This is how we grow. That's part of the experience of really meeting the humbled warrior within. No longer the fighting warrior, but the humbled warrior. That strengthens each moment that we have these epiphanies, these moments of truth, these moments of strength, inner strength. Gentlemen, you probably have no idea, because you're in it. We're well over the hour, and we haven't even tapped into this topic. We're only about a quarter of the way in. I would love to turn this into a part 2. If you all can make it back next week, Layne, you are welcome to join us next week.
It'd be awesome.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Layne, I'm curious, what has it been like for you being on Real Men Real Talk Live? What are your takeaways so far? What'd you pick up? What'd you learn?
Several things. One, that you got to get out of the way, because you may have a preconception about what something's going to be like, and you follow the flow. You go with it. And when that happens, then what needs to happen happens. Love it. I think what I picked up from this is that Chris has an inner child that needed a great big hug and acknowledged. And that Kamalu, that there's some unfinished business, that this is just a hiatus. This isn't the end of a dream. It's not the end of a journey. It's simply a detour, a little pit stop along the way, and that there's every dream is tested. Every dream. And it tests the strength of your desires. And it sounds like what I picked up from this is that the desire is still there, and you recognize that, hey, I'm just being tested. I'm going to go with the test and then jump back in full steam ahead.
How was it for you showing up on a show tonight in a talk show format like this?
Different. I love having multiple people on here, because different perspectives enrich the entire conversation.
Yeah. Well, welcome home, man. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the true the true essence of what makes a man real. When we feel safe enough to express our feelings, our emotions, our thoughts, our dreams, our desires, our needs. And when we feel safe, we're free. We finally experience the true essence of inner freedom. And that will always lead to inner peace, peace within. And so I'm going to invite each one of you to put a 1 minute wrap on tonight's show so we could put a pretty bow on the show and call it a wrap. Chris, kick us off. 1 minute.
Man, this went in a. I could have not guessed this is where we journeyed into, and I'm just very humbled to have the two of you sitting there next to each other. Like I said in the pre-show, Jay, you've been a mentor in the flesh and mentor from afar for several years now. Somebody I've looked up to, and so to share space with you now is just wild. How strong somebody's creation can be. I remember saying, like, I want to be on that show with him sometime. Layne, like I said, when you and I sat and talked about my kid's book, and the conversation that came out of that, it's probably the second most important conversation I've had behind Gabby Puma telling me that I am worthy and me finally receiving it. And so seeing the two of you guys next to each other up there is really, really powerful. And Kamalo, I feel you. I see you, brother. I've been there. We're here for you. We will all grow together. And we're never alone.
Kamalo, what do you got? You're up. 1 minute.
We talked earlier in the show about the different layers, and for me, this episode has brought me so much deeper into the layers of realness, being worthy, being able to receive that love and that support, and just really allowing myself to be seen and be felt and be heard in that way. To have that space held and to like give myself permission to be held is such a profound gift. I'm so incredibly grateful for all three of you. I mentioned this in the production meeting about how I've been really excited. I mean, throughout this show, just to gain experiential knowledge and wisdom from those who are older than me, and to really like feel the embodiment of you guys being who you are, and hearing your stories. It just gives me a lot of solace and peace about where I'm at right now, because sometimes I get too in my head about it, and I gotta remind myself, like, I am 23. So thank you guys so much for the gift that you've given me tonight, and like continue to offer me every single day just by knowing you. It's truly an honor.
You know, the truth is, the honor is for us, at least for me. I'm not going to speak for these two other men here, but I'm always honored when I'm in your presence, because I see something in you that I didn't have at your age. What I had was drive, but what I lacked was wisdom that I was able to access. And you have a lot of access to your inner wisdom, and that's something that I admire in you. And I know that there may be a few viewers that don't like to hear accolades, But you see, accolades are worth sharing when we've earned them. And you've earned these accolades. So welcome home, brother. And you're more than enough.
Wow.
Layne, you're up. You got 1 minute. So far, we haven't done real good at holding our own boundaries here around 1 minute, but it's okay. What do you got?
Okay, I'm going to be shorter than a minute. The one thing that comes to mind is look where your eyes dance. Because watching each of you, when you're talking about your stories and your dreams, your eyes dance or they don't. And when they don't, that's a clear signal that's not the dream. But the dream makes your eyes dance.
Hmm.
You know, it's interesting you say that, Layne, because what I've learned is the eyes are the portal to the soul. And when I do my work, most days of the week, either in a wilderness or in an office environment, my intention how to connect with a client is through the eyes. I ask them for permission to travel through their eyes to meet them at their soul, at their heart, at their wounded heart. And that's when we have that soul connection, soul to soul, there's a spontaneous moment of trust. Because for many, it may be the first time they feel seen or that they do matter. So I'm okay with having eyes that dance today. And thank you for seeing me tonight, Layne. Thank you for seeing each one of us. It's been an honor to have you on tonight's talk show, honoring your fierce dream. And at least for about 30 minutes ago, my dream was to invite you to come back next week to have part 2. And since you've accepted that, in this moment, thank you for joining us this evening. And viewers, if you heard something that you like to love, please share it out with your family and friends. Social media, email. The replay is always available archived on our YouTube channel. We hope you got something of value out of tonight's episode. And if you did, please come back next week. And please invite your loved ones, people you care about in your life, to join us. You know what I'm about to say here. If you guys want to join me, you're welcome to. On Real Men, Real Talk, Live.